Hello, everybody. Hi out
Hi.
there.
We got some sweet new digs.
Yes.
Well, old digs, but moved around. Well, new furniture.
Yeah. New
This
paint.
Well, yeah, and I was going to say, this is basically the same room we were filming in, except now it's 180 degrees different.
Yes.
So the window is now the audience.
Yeah.
So if you remember that window that Lola liked to perch on, all the way from back in May.
Yes, that's now behind the computer instead of sitting, on the opposite side of the room.
And we have some nice lights, and soon we'll have some nice sound, so we're eventually getting more and more professional.
Yes.
It's exciting. And I'm like trying to slim my face with my hands. It's working so far.
Yes. So welcome to the Musical QuaranStream with Glen and Bri. I am Glen.
I'm also Glen. No, I'm Bri.
If you are also Glen, where are we going to get a Bri?
I don't know, the fridge. That's about the quality of humor you will be getting on this show.
Yes.
But we welcome you. We're happy that you're here. We took a week off because I'm kind of fully back at work.
Yeah.
I got to work from home starting in St. Patrick's Day of 2020. And now the hospital's kind of back up and running. So I think for the past this week and last week.
Yeah.
I've been going to work almost every single day, or at least from 7 until 6 most days, and sometimes 7 until 4 if I can. So it's been busy. And you worked.
Yeah, I worked, but I, on the other hand, am not able to go back into the workplace because all of my workplaces involve, massive numbers of people coming together into the same spot. So we are still on distance work and things like that. So.
Well, last week you worked 6 days pretty much all day.
Yeah. And
that's why we didn't have QuaranStream. We're sorry if you missed us. We're glad you missed us, but we missed you.
Yes.
So hopefully.
And hello, Bristol. We see you in the chat room.
Yeah, and hopefully you're happy we're back.
Yeah. So Musical QuaranStream. If anybody is joining us for the first time, welcome. We hope you stick around. But basically, this is twice a week with the occasional week off. We get on the QuaranStream and we talk about art and performing arts in particular. And
musical theater.
Yes, musical theater, and we pitch ideas for musicals because both of us are writers, and if anybody out there wants to give us money to make a show, we are always available for an offer like that. Hint, hint, our Twitter accounts are on the screen below each of us.
Or if you just want to talk about musical theater, I feel like I'm definitely missing theater.
Yeah.
I was listening to, now granted there's not an album yet, so I hope there's an album in the future. If anybody knows anybody that's going to fund an album for this, please encourage them. There's this musical called Love and Hate Nation, which I like a lot. It takes place in a women's correctional facility, and I was like, I'd like to direct this on Zoom. How do I do that? And nobody knew.
Yeah.
But a lot of people liked it, so I mean, I think that I'm kind of at that point where it's I want to do theater, I want to see people. I know it's probably going to be another year.
Yeah, well, I saw earlier today Riff Tracks Live, which Riff Tracks, sometimes if you guys show up early, you'll see that we're usually hosting the Riff Tracks channel on Twitch on our stream when we're not live. Riff Tracks Live holds a Kickstarter every year to finance live shows that get beamed out to movie theaters, and they just announced today that none of their planned live shows will happen until 2021. Theater is still trying to work out how it's going to come back in the major markets.
Well, locally, I know, there's a local theater group that's doing, if you pay $250, you get kind of unlimited access to any programming, any shows, any talkbacks, and I actually think it's a really good deal. I just don't have, $250 for each of us to participate, and so, yeah, I mean, I highly recommend, I think theaters have been really resilient, and I think that people are trying really hard to kind of, be creative and do stuff, but We still got a long way to go. I kind of had a nice little pipe dream earlier this week. I need to get my clinical researcher certification, and surprisingly, I went to go check to see how I could do it online, but surprisingly they have in-person dates. And so the in-person date I was most interested in was over, like, the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
They're like, if you come to Disney World, you can get your certification in person. And I was like, ooh, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
But then I was like, ooh, COVID.
Yes. And it is, like I was saying earlier, my workplace involves lots of people in the same spot. I'm doing primarily two things with some regularity right now, which is standardized patienting, which is you portray a patient and a doctor in training interviews you the way they would a patient, which typically involves massive numbers of people shuffling through small rooms.
Yes.
So that's not exactly a thing that can be done right now.
And a lot of close personal contact.
Yes. And the other thing that I do is I've been working with UVA's UVA Acts Ensemble, which is supposed to be theater people using sort of like theater techniques and everything to talk about serious issues in academia and in teaching and HR issues and things like that. And unfortunately for us, that also requires massive amounts of people coming together, because that's supposed to be, we get up and perform these sketches and then do interactive workshop elements with entire college departments. So neither one of these is really being able to go forward as it always has done. Standardized patienting, they've been able to work out sort of an online system for it that has worked very nicely. But UVA Acts, for the moment, we're kind of in a holding pattern, waiting to see when COVID finishes. So.
Well, you actually qualified for some relief funding.
Yes,
because
I did.
UVA Acts will not meet really until 2021 at this point. So.
And I will happily take the relief funding. I qualified for the absolute lowest amount of relief funding that they will give anybody. But you know what? Every little bit helps. So
still awesome.
Yeah.
And it's what allows us to kind of do stuff like this instead of worrying about getting second jobs or, we all go through some stuff.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. But we're working and we're gonna get through it. And,
Now, things that we've watched that we liked.
Mm-hmm.
Steven Universe Future. We watched that series.
Yeah.
That was good. Their latest John Oliver we really liked. That was good.
Yeah, Steven Universe Future. I'm not certain yet. I have an idea for a film optimist that I might do around that one. I have another film optimist coming up. Hopefully it will be, hey, Lola's in here. Everybody.
We shut the door, and so probably poor Uhura's out there like, oh no. And
yes.
Lola's like, yes.
The day is mine. But yes, there's a new film optimist that's supposed to be releasing on YouTube tomorrow around noon-ish. I've got to do a final quality check on it, but it's I really like the work that I've done on it. So
yeah, there's a lot of scripts in the pipeline for the film optimist. We also really like the new Phineas and Ferb movie. That was really funny.
The new Phineas and Ferb is a great movie. If you're not
on Disney Plus.
Yeah, on Disney Plus. Disney Plus was very controversial today. Did you hear?
No, I was working.
Well,
I work in a basement/hospital rooms.
they announced an upcoming Disney Plus Premium, which of course touched off a lot of people being very upset about all these streaming services adding tiers and everything. From what I can tell, it turns out it's not a new tier. It's basically there are going to be some movies that you can either watch at the movie theaters or you can stream it on Disney Plus.
Gotcha.
So Disney Plus Premium is going to be they're trying it out with Mulan.
Right. So stuff like Mulan and Bill and Ted that just came out and stuff like that. Yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, I realize that a lot of these movies are already made, and that they have to come up with a good solution. And if you do look at it as something where it's like, well, $20, and now I have a copy of the movie, and
Right.
blah blah blah, all that stuff. But as we kind of talked about, like way early on, and like I'm not gonna blame you if you weren't here in March, we've had a lot of issues with electronic purchases sometimes.
Yeah. Electronic purchases are not, I'm just going to say it, they're not reliable. An electronic purchase can disappear out of your library at any time.
Yeah.
And both of us have experience, each of us has had
individual
experiences with things disappearing out of our libraries.
Like, I'll tell you, like, my one experience, like, I don't think I've had, like, such a dramatic thing as you have had with, like, movies just completely disappearing, but, like, I love a lot of different types of music, and so sometimes I know of music a year or two before other people know of music, just because I seek stuff out, and I look for it, I listen to it. And I used to buy almost everything on Apple iTunes because, like, back in the day, you know, you either had, you know, your little, like, iPod or you had a Zune or whatever. And so, like, you know, having an iPod, like, that was just the thing. And that was supposed to be, like, the big perk, right? You know, you don't have to have your big disc binder full of CDs. You could just go ahead and have, like, everything in there. And it's tiny little. It's great. Well, I would buy songs when I heard them and I thought they were great, and then some controversy or something would happen, like, no, we don't want to be known as that cursing band, or, oh, we had some copyrighted music in our song, so now we have to, like, remix it or remaster it or something. And here I was like, ooh, but I have the old copy. No, I don't.
Nope, they replaced it. Yeah,
they did. They replaced it. So you would know a song and you'd be singing along with it, and you're like, wait, that is not the song.
Yeah. Well, you've heard me do that with, like, one of my favorite songs, Calloway's "I Wanna Be Rich," where there's a bridge in the song that in the original version is sung falsetto, but in the version they include on, like, greatest hits compilations and things like that, they have this, like, extreme auto-tune voice that sounds very robotic and mechanical. And I remember the first time I was listening to my copy of "I Wanna Be Rich" and singing along with it, that I had purchased myself and had re-downloaded, and suddenly it hit that bridge, and I was like, wait, that's wrong. That's not how the bridge is supposed to sound.
Whereas if we had physical copies of the media, then that wouldn't be a problem.
Yes.
But because it's, I always say this is very dramatic, but I'm a dramatic girl, so... like somebody coming into my house and stealing my thing and replacing it with a different thing. Yeah.
Well, and I'm not going to mention the name of the service. It is still around.
Look at that kitty. Lola's apparently very interested in our light, which I bet there's a bug in it. But I just noticed she's just sitting there like, I must go to my people.
Yeah. There's a music service. It still exists. It's not one of the big names or anything, but I'm not going to mention it. When I subscribed, they were like, pay us $15 a month, and you get complete access to our library, that you can add any of the albums you want to your library, and you can keep them forever. Even if you stop your subscription, you can still log into your account and re-download them, which was massive for me, and I discovered so many bands by using that service and everything. And then the first thing that happened was Universal Music Group ended their contract with the company. So suddenly those albums, which I had been told would always be there for me to download, were out of my library. And it was just about a year or two after that that I logged in, and my library had completely disappeared. And they were just like, oh yeah, no, we don't do that anymore. We don't keep your library on hand for you to be able to re-download. And it's like, yeah, but when I spent that couple of years paying you $15 a month, you were saying it would always be mine.
Yeah.
So
frustrating.
Yeah, always is only as long as the company decides it means. And as Bri pointed out, the thing that you buy today may not be the thing that you have in your library tomorrow.
Right, and like, I mean, I think that, yes, if I spend $20 on Mulan or Bill and Ted or whatever, that's cheaper, or about the same price as like if we went to the movie theater, right?
Oh yeah.
Like that's not a problem. And then especially like if you're thinking of buying it anyway,
Yeah.
you know, like it's kind of a win-win-win. But I feel like for me, that's always like the pressure that I feel to buy the thing, because there's still enough things that play DVDs and Blu-rays. I mean, heck, we've been lugging around an old VHS player because we still have a lot of VHSs.
Yeah.
So I just feel like it's not the choice for everybody, but I think for us, like we are right at that cusp between, you know, like Gen X and millennials, and so we still have a bit of nostalgia and fondness for physical copies of media.
Yes.
I think especially also being theater people, we realize the benefit of a good prop.
Yeah. And
even if we've had to move it halfway across the country 6 times at this point.
Yes. And it is a difficult situation because there are things like millennials have had to learn to live with smaller living spaces and things like that. Access to a movie library where you can just decide to watch something for a small fee every year or every month is not a bad thing for that sort of thing. But at the same point, if you really love the movie and you want to own the movie, it's very difficult to endorse buying it digitally these days as like a solution.
Well, and like we love our condo, don't get us wrong, but it's still like 900 square feet.
Yeah. There's
not a linen closet. Like we have like towels just kind of sitting out right now. So I feel like it's almost even not pay small living space, because like you used to work for IKEA. There's like always good solutions for small living spaces. I mean, like I don't know if you can kind of see over my shoulder here. We have a backup headboard that's going to my sister, so it's just kind of chilling there. I really haven't put together the bookshelf behind us yet. There's like some disinfectant wipes and masks and stuff on it. But I mean, like basically this is it. Like it's a nice sized bedroom, but it's not ginormous. And when you do have a bedroom set in it, it's kind of like that's it. And so, you know, I kind of have this big envisioning dream of putting a linen closet in here, and that ain't going to happen. Because my closet right now, like, poor Glenn has to use the guest bedroom as his closet, because this is my closet, and it's full.
Yeah. And my closet is full, too.
Yeah. And that's just, like, normal everyday clothes. And I know you haven't seen us in a lot of different clothes, but, you know, you don't want to necessarily give away stuff that you're using.
Yeah.
And we really struggled with that because, like, my parents are like, give everything away. You don't need it. And I'm like, there's a difference between being retired and downsizing and, like, being halfway through your life and thinking, I might need that pot.
Yes. And I keep having Lola over my shoulder, and there's part of me that's just like, lean farther out of the frame. She is the star. She's who people tune in to see. So.
Yeah. And right on cue, she's like, I'm going to clean my butt.
Yes.
And that's what kitties do.
Yes.
But really, I mean, like, we've been watching, like, my goal has been to watch a little bit more of services that we paid for, kind of in our funds at the beginning of the pandemic, just because we tend to watch a lot of YouTube because it's free and we're used to that. So watching things like Netflix or Verve or Disney Plus or Prime or HBO Max, it's not, I think we get stuck in a rut, and so I've been trying to really pressure myself to watch things, especially, like, I think the things I watch the least are HBO Max and Disney Plus, and it's not because, like, I don't like stuff on them, it's just, like, especially going back to work, I like comfort food. Yeah. Well, like, I tend to really like cartoons, and I tend to really like murder mysteries. Yeah. And I know we've talked about that before, because, like, it's very comforting, and in fact, we just, like, watched a baking competition. Like, that's the other thing. It's like, I want stuff that's like, I can do some work, I can answer some emails, I can just kind of have something on in the background.
Yeah. And I have been watching, in order to get more material for the Film Optimist, I've been digging into sort of the depths of Amazon Prime Video, because all of these services have their own specialties. Like, Disney Plus is, of course, Disney movies, it's family movies and entertainment, that sort of thing. Netflix prides itself on being, like, the premium network sort of thing. HBO Max is aimed at bringing you like superhero shows and action and horror and science fiction and those things. And Amazon Prime Video's library just seems to be like, what is the goofiest stuff we can find?
Well, because they have a really low bar, which is,
Yeah.
like, great. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of the most democratic of all platforms,
Yeah.
where if you made a movie and you send it in and they say, hey, we'll show it, like, that's great.
Yeah.
And I think we've known a lot of friends who have done that.
Yeah, and for the Film Optimist, it's like, will there be hot take videos about popular topics? Absolutely. But I don't want to just be producing a video on what is the hot thing on Netflix right now. And Amazon Prime Video gives me a lot of material that other streaming services tend to ignore. So.
And I think a lot of the times, like, I mean, I'm not a producer on the Film Optimist, but I'm kind of a silent partner who talks about it a lot.
Yes.
I always talk about, like, people will be very short-sighted in a lot of their media commentary, and so I think having somebody who can do a socio-political take on it is really important. And so sometimes you're going to want to talk about what we're seeing now, but it does come from, you know, at least the last time that people are saying is fairly cyclical, which is like in the 1964, 1965, like that type of stuff, like when our parents were, you know, kind of our age. So I think that going back and looking at like this, you know, quote unquote older media is really important to then say like, but this is why you're now seeing this type of reaction to sexism or racism or something in media.
Absolutely. And it is, I endeavor to bring serious conversation to media that people don't take seriously. That's basically what the Film Optimist is supposed to be. It's, you know, watch like it means something. That's the idea. Anyway.
What else did we watch? Oh, Agretsuko.
Yes.
Watched that. Where we realized it was dubbed into English, and then I said, can I change it back to Japanese? I like the original voices.
I think it's the only time I can remember that Bri has asked me to switch from the dub to the subtitles, because typically the concern is, well, I can't focus on anything else while this show is on if it's subtitled.
It was fast. It was like 8 episodes.
Yeah, and with Agretsuko, for one thing, we had started out watching it subtitled. And for another, it is, you were already in a mindset of, okay, I'm ready to sit down and actually watch this instead of...
And it was serious, guys.
Yeah.
It was super serious. The only thing that I don't think I'll watch, and it's not anything personal, is I don't think I can watch Lovecraft Country. I don't think I can. I saw some really great prop artisans show off their monsters, and while I'm like, I can appreciate that artistry, I can appreciate that craft, that looks amazing, I don't want to see that moving.
Yes.
I don't want to see it coming towards me on my TV screen. I will not watch that. So I told Glenn he has to watch it for both of us and tell me what it's all about. Kind of like Midsommar.
Yes.
Or I'm like, just tell me all the scary stuff. I don't want to watch it. I want to be hip and I want to know what's going on because it seems like it's great, but I don't want to see people get hurt. Can I have like people hugging and kissing, but not in a porn way?
Yes. Now she does not hate all horror. Just for those of you out there watching, she does not hate all horror. But if somebody is hurting another person, she would prefer that one of those people be Vincent Price.
I just like the goofy older stuff. Let's put it that way. Like I can deal with that a little bit better.
Yeah, you've watched Hammer horror films and the B movies and things like that. Most of what comes on Riff Tracks when they do horror, you're okay with. Yeah.
Yeah. Although there's a few times where I'm like,
yeah. Let's see, Bristol.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, I hear it's good, but I also hear, like, people who like horror are, like, screaming at their TV sets. I'm like, whoa. that is not for me. I like thrillers. I like psychological stuff. Like, I mean, I think I like a lot more of, like, the suspense.
Yeah.
You know? So I feel like things like you don't know if that's a monster or not because they're so much like a person. And it's like, is the monster really a monster because people are more monsters? And... I like that stuff.
But yeah, so that's kind of an overview of what we've been watching or what been avoiding watching.
And of course, puppet history. Like,
yeah, puppet
I'll
history.
be honest, whenever, like, I'm feeling really down, gotta rewatch puppet history. Like, I know, like, we've talked about that an awful lot, and you might think we don't watch anything else, but it's just, like, he spent so much time making those puppets and inventing those songs, and it's just, like, you just feel really inspired, I think, by somebody's level of creativity. And I think that's really what I want to see nowadays, is I've noticed myself following, like, young people who are getting into interior design or fashion design or something, and wanting to see, like, what people are being creative about. Because, like, even though I think we had the internet as a platform, I do think it was a lot harder for our generation to just say, oh, yeah, I'll just start my own clothing business and put online and get kind of the population you would really need to make it feasible.
Yeah.
Like, you could do it. Like, I mean, but, you know, we were coming from, you know, MySpace and very early Facebook, and Facebook wasn't open to everybody, and there really wasn't Instagram or Snapchat or anything.
Well, and I feel like we've discussed this on the stream before, but it is a thing that I'm noticing more and more, where gatekeeping for entry, particularly into the arts industry, on a surface level, gatekeeping is less of a problem than it used to be. But when you get deeper down into it, it's just become a different form of gatekeeping.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I would say, if you were an artist back in MySpace days, I do think that it was so much more of a level platform for that. So I think, like, as a visual artist and, like, a musician, MySpace was kind of great back in the 90s for that, but early 2000s.
There was almost something freeing about, before the arts and entertainment industries took the internet seriously. Yeah. Because it meant that you, as an independent, had an entire market that the mainstream was ignoring.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, I remember thinking, if you get stuff up on MySpace, like, you're just going to be able to have the talent scouts see it. So you wouldn't necessarily have to, like, tour or go to LA or something. It would just be kind of a good way that you could, like, put up everything about, like, your band or, you know, if comic artists or whatever. It was a way that the gatekeepers could discover new talent. I don't think I ever anticipated it would be then overrun by brands, you know? Yeah. And that's what I think is kind of the bigger problem is, like, when you go onto a thing like Instagram, yes, you'll see a lot of, like, new talent, and sometimes it just has to kind of take a fluke or, like, the right person kind of getting them in front of more people. But I think more often than not, you'll see really established brands taking over a Twitter or an Instagram, and so therefore it's becoming even harder because you're still fighting for that limited audience of views and likes and shares and all that stuff. Yeah. So anyway, let's talk about musicals.
Yeah, that's the state of the world. We've been doing a series of pitches on literary adaptations.
Yeah, I had Glenn remind me. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, I always, like, would yell at when I was directing, oh, actors, like, you have to tell them that day. They're not going to remember. I would get so mad, and I was like, I am actors.
Yes. You took a week off, your brain just went...
Well, and I told Glenn as well, I was like, I love this show. This is so much fun, and when I'm doing it, like, I can barely stop talking. Like, I really want to convey and talk and have fun with everybody. But it is really hard to do sometimes. Especially, like, I've been up since at 5:30. I want to be in my PJs. Yes. Lying in the bed. Which I'm sure some of our audience wouldn't mind, but I want to be somewhat professional, despite it being so humid here in Virginia that, you know, all my baby hairs are just going everywhere.
So let's get into your pitch so that we can get you to your pajamas and your bed as quickly as we can. And you out there who are not currently in your pajamas, you might be in your pajamas right now.
Do it.
We don't have a webcam on you, so
let's do, like, either QuaranStream slumber party and watch another movie together that's in public domainish, or we can do QuaranStream after dark.
No, that's something for the OnlyFans page.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I was like, you think we're kidding? As you know, as we're talking about Shakespeare this evening, it's like, as the penny pace from day to day goes apace. Yes. We are thinking about it. Some days more seriously than others.
But But so we've already done. Let's see. You did Kate Chopin,
Yes.
and then I did John Kendrick Bangs, and now it's Bri's turn to pitch again, and Bri is pitching MEGABETH.
Yes.
All right. So what is MEGABETH?
It's a really dumb idea, but I think it would be fun. Okay, so I don't know if you all know this out there. You probably do, but I have not been in the Scottish play. You've been in the Scottish.
I have been in the Scottish play. Yes.
Would you give a description of your Scottish play?
A description of my Scottish play.
Yeah, the show that you were in and what it was about, and like kind of the aesthetic, and
All right.
what did you do, and what do you think about it?
So, my production of the Scottish play, I played sort of a conglomerate character that combined 2 or 3 characters into a single character, because nobody has enough actors to cast every single character in the Scottish play. And the Scottish play, for those who are not familiar with that term, is a Shakespeare play that is very famous, and it's supposedly bad luck in a rehearsal space where you are not genuinely rehearsing that play to say the name of the play, which is bad because it's also the name of the main character of that play. So you can't even, I guess you can refer to him as the Scottish King, I guess. Where basically the story is supposed to be ancient Scotland, a noble warrior who has just won great victories on the battlefield, comes across a group of witches who greet him as the future king.
It's like the Pixar movie Brave, but less bears and more trees.
Yes. And lots more murder.
Lots more murder.
Yes. So he goes home. His wife encourages him if the king were just out of the way, then you could be king. And they murder the king, and then things just go to hell from there. That, as things typically do in Shakespeare when you murder the king. Shakespeare very fond of people leaving kings unmurdered. Arguably very fond about just leaving people unmurdered in general, I would say.
But still murdering them.
Yes, but still murdering. Still murdering them for the play. Just, in general, tends to be like bad things happen when you murder people. So
and particularly kings, because that's who paid him.
Yes. Kings and queens paid for him to do his plays, so they tended to get the please don't murder these people stories. So my production of the show that I was in, as with many productions of this show, was done in sort of a post-apocalyptic road warrior style staging. So instead of attempting to do ancient Scotland on stage, we put on armor that looked like it had been improvised out of modern materials. We had weapons that looked like they had been made out of materials you might find in a post-apocalyptic world. My character's main weapon, I carried around a leg that had been ripped off of a piano bench and had shards of plexiglass sticking out of it, which was the initial weapon that I was given. I have to tell this story real quick. The initial weapon that I had been given was supposed to be a scimitar. And it had been described to me as, oh, it's great, it's got this furniture leg for the hilt, and then it's part of a gear that's been an industrial gear that's been broken off so that it creates this nice big arc and everything. And when I finally got my hands on it, for one thing, the industrial material they had used for the blade was incredibly heavy. I mean, incredibly heavy. And it had been
carried off stage, Lady M.
It had been attached in a way that, it attached to the hilt, and it just went right off like that. And then the hilt was a furniture leg, but it was a big, broad sofa leg. So in order to hold the hilt, I basically would have had to hold it like this. And that would have... that's not much of a weapon you can do things with on stage. So, like, when the director saw it, he was like, oh, no, something's got to change for that. And I wound up with the piano bench leg. But anyway, I feel like where we're going with this is that's the important part about this production, is that it was post-apocalyptic world, sort of.
Well, and you look very shaggy. You had a...
Yes. I had a huge beard going on. I had very long hair. They would put gel in the hair to kind of like make it look stringy and everything every night.
And I am getting to a point, but I want you to tell one more story.
Okay.
Is you found a play written by this guy that you showed the play off from 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Where it was Titus Andronicus?
Yes. Titus Andronicus. So a couple of weeks ago I just bought a script called The Doctor in Wonderland. The man who wrote The Doctor in Wonderland has written a massive number of these parodies for like young acting troupes and things like that. And one of them is, it's Titus Andronicus, Friendship is Magic, or something like that. And basically what it is it is a play where the cast of My Little Pony is charged with putting on a play for a big celebration, and the play they choose to put on is Titus Andronicus.
The only reason why I wanted Glenn to kind of bring these up is because I kind of feel like this is kind of the style of Shakespeare that I think a lot of people have been working with very commonly in the 20th and 21st century. There probably isn't not much that you have not done to Shakespeare at this point, so I'm sure this idea is not a new idea, which is why I say it's kind of a dumb idea, but still something I think is kind of fun. And then the other thing I'm kind of bring up while you're thinking about like My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, Murder, Death, Mayhem, Scottish play, is, do you remember that cartoon show Metalocalypse?
Yes.
Yes. So if you haven't seen it, it's from like almost 2010, a little bit earlier than that, maybe like 2007.
I think around 2006, 2007 would have been when it launched,
Anyway, it's about a fictional death metal band, and they're just so stupid. They're such dumb guys. Like, you think I'm being mean about this, but it's just about really, really stupid people.
The whole joke of it is how incredibly stupid they are.
And they're kind of accidentally bringing about the apocalypse through their music, but they don't know that. They're just busy being rock stars, right? You know, they want what they want, and they kind of travel around, and they kind of fight with each other like little kids. And so anyway, I was just like, well, wouldn't it really be funny if we had kind of like that cartoonish death metal, My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, that type of feeling with the Scottish play. And that's how I came up with MEGABETH, because Megadeth and the Scottish play.
Yes. And I've got to say, I really, the more I have thought about this leading up to today, the more I've been like, this is really great, because so many scenes out of the Scottish play you could see being heavy metal album covers.
Yes, yeah.
Like the Weird Sisters producing a baby on a pole to speak to the Scottish king.
We're only being extra cautious because, if all the world's a stage, we want to have a reading here one day.
Yes.
We really want to make sure, we're being serious.
Yes.
I keep getting horoscopes that are like, you're going to run out of money and everybody hates you. So we just really need to, make sure we're avoiding all that. We can run out of money and people hate me later.
My horoscopes keep telling me maybe this isn't the best time to chase your dreams. So.
Oh boy.
We used to get Chinese food from a place in Blacksburg that I always joked that they didn't have fortune cookies, they had austerity cookies, because every single fortune you got in a fortune cookie was about the importance of hard work and saving money.
And speaking about kind of mashups, we should have that austerity fortune cookies and the Three Sisters.
Yes.
You must work all the time. Work. Go to Moscow. Become a teacher. We just keep opening fortune cookies.
We must work. This is like the third one of these I've gotten today.
But yeah, so I don't think this is a particularly new idea. I think it's just kind of an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And in fact, when we were talking about the pitch, I said, do you want to hear like what I think my good idea is versus this? And Glenn's like, this is good. And I'm like, so just a very simple concept. Like I said, I'm sure somebody out there has done this before, but I haven't seen it. I've seen at least two so far. One was corporate takeover, kind of like, business yuppies, that I've seen that on stage. And then I think the most recent one that happened in Blacksburg was Pirates.
Yes, there was one. It was set on a pirate ship. Yeah.
So, and then we saw Teller's version. So I mean, like I feel like there's a lot of different versions out there, but like this one's my idea.
Yeah.
The other idea I was gonna pitch, and I'll just mention it briefly because clearly I don't have an in-depth socio-political or economical reason for doing it aside from like metal. Is I was thinking about the War of 1812, which a lot of Americans don't really know in the grand scheme of things. But I was thinking about the War of 1812 and the Winter's Tale, which that's what I think my good idea is. So, tweet at me. Which do you think is a good idea? One, the other, both, or neither? You're more than welcome to have that conversation with me. If you have something in the chat of like maybe your dream Shakespeare mashup or staging, I'd love to hear it. Or have you seen maybe Shakespeare play or Shakespeare musical? There are a lot of like Shakespeare type of musicals, like there's The Boys from Syracuse, which was based on Comedy of Errors. There's Kiss Me Kate. So I feel like there are a lot more like comedies that kind of get like tossed into it. I can't think of too many like big histories or tragedies or anything, although there's almost always like some musical component to a lot of those pieces, especially like I think we saw the National Theater As You Like It, which was fairly musical, even though it wasn't like a musical. Yeah, they did like in a jazz club. It was kind of neat.
I think you're right. The tragedies and histories typically do not get musical treatment. The only thing that keeps coming to mind, and it's just like a throwaway gag in another show, is in The Producers. One of the signs that lights up at the end is Funny Boy, a musical based on Hamlet.
And I mean, I almost said at the very beginning, I was like, this is how you can tell I've had an American education. So I almost said Lysistrata Jones. And I was like, wait, no. That's classical theater, but not Shakespeare.
Well, I gotta say, though, I think, as goofy as the idea is and everything, I feel like the idea of a heavy metal Scottish play, Scottish tragedy, is actually a really good blend. Because, like I said, so many of the moments could be heavy metal album covers. And I could see the aesthetic, particularly of 1980s metal, 1980s and 90s metal.
Christopher
Lee metal. But I was thinking like Iron Maiden with their Eddie character.
Yep.
Or what was the character's name that Megadeth had? Vic. All these sort of like bizarre, crazy things that they would like to turn into giant puppets that would crash through the stage during their concerts and things like that.
And that's the thing, is like metal really is very theatrical.
Yeah.
Like it absolutely is. So it just kind of seems to like make a little bit of sense. I feel like me in particular, because like I love, kind of more traditional musicals and that type of stuff. Like, I was watching Wait in the Wings, where they're talking about the failure of Lake Diamond, and they're like, well, their problem was that they thought people wanted a 1920s, like, showstopper musical. I'm like, I want a 1920s showstopper musical. I'm the reason why people fail. So honestly, like, I do like those big showy, big classical types of musicals, but I feel like, we don't really have this big diversity of music and musicals, so... One, I think that's really entertaining. Two, I think the theatricality of Shakespeare, the theatricality of metal really works well. Yeah. Like I said, I just never seen it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think a lot of my ideas are really like, I'll be honest, I have like a ton of ideas where it's like, I don't want to write this, or I don't want to do it, but I want to see it. And then you kind of like come into this moment of realization where it's like, oh, but that means I have to write it.
Well,
because nobody else is going to do it. And so there's like a book series I've been begging Glen to write for a very long time, because it's like, I just love it so much. And I feel like everybody else would really love it. And it could be a TV show. And like, I just have like big dreams for this book series. And
I'm working on it.
Yes.
I'm working on the first novel
right now. And he is doing it.
Yeah.
But I love it so much, and it just frustrates me. I can't talk to anybody else about it. So I feel like these types of moments when we do these pitches where it's like, gosh, this might be like 6-7 years out. And it might be kind of just a simple idea or a silly idea that kind of turns into something. But it's like, I think the more older I get, the more I realize that I have to write the things that I want to see, even if it's silly and not great art or anything, just because I want to see it and I think it'd be fun.
Well, and if I can talk for just a second about the whole idea of, nobody wanted a 1920s showstopper musical sort of thing. I think that tends to be a thing that people get from the failure of a show. And oftentimes it's masking a failing that they don't want to admit to. Often, in my opinion, it tends to be a failure of marketing. Because there are plenty of people out there who love 1920s showstopper musicals who, 5 or 6 years after Legs Diamond fails, would, go to Broadway, flock to Broadway to see this show, and everybody be like, the showstopper musical is back! We see that happen with 3-camera sitcoms and things like that. It happens all the time in movies. That's where cult movies come from.
Yeah, I mean, just to be honest, the very first musical I ever wrote, which is not the musical I did in college, but a musical I wrote in high school, is literally one of those types of shows. So that's why I'm like, I would have been a failure on Broadway.
Yeah, well, think about Clue.
Yep.
Clue, the movie, hit theaters, sank very quickly, and a lot of people said, oh, nobody wants that kind of screwball comedy anymore. And other people said, oh, nobody really wants an old house murder mystery anymore, sort of thing. And what it genuinely came down to was, no, the studio didn't really know what they had. When the audience that liked the kind of movie Clue was discovered it on VHS, it took off and became a huge success. Same thing happens with Rocky Horror Picture Show and Shock Treatment. I was absolutely thrilled just a few days ago. This is such a stupid thing to be thrilled about. But someone was asking the question of, what's a movie that you love? Not a guilty pleasure, but genuinely the critics hated it, and you're like, I don't understand why you hate this. It's good. And I posted my response as Shock Treatment, because I genuinely feel like Shock Treatment is a good movie. And it gets
really relevant to today.
Oh, yeah. And it gets a lot of hatred that I don't feel it deserves. And then I scrolled down, and Neil Gaiman had responded to this guy, and Neil Gaiman had said, Shock Treatment. And I was like, well, vindication right there.
Yep, and somebody else
Me and Neil Gaiman.
Somebody else put Phantom of the Paradise, which we also really like.
Yeah.
That's another show, we have heard rumors. Might be a real show soon, but we've always really liked that show as well.
Yes. So, but I like this idea because I feel like there's a lot you can play with there. There are ways that you could take this and you could make it very serious, like you mentioned earlier, Christopher Lee doing the Charlemagne concept albums that he did toward the end of his life, which was orchestral metal. Or there are ways that you could take it in a very goofy Metalocalypse sort of direction. And I think either one of those would be a phenomenal show to see.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. That's the only thing I wanted to share with you guys. We just want to have some fun. Kind of welcome us back to this. And we still got plenty more to share with you guys. I know that we kind of said we went up until basically Halloween, I think.
Yeah.
So we still got a lot of things to share with you here on the Musical QuaranStream. Again, I would really love it if you guys want to tweet at me anything about Shakespeare, anything about your favorite Shakespeare plays, your favorite Shakespeare musical mashups.
Yeah.
I'll talk about, those are my two things. Like, I
Yes.
feel like operas, operettas, Shakespeare, and musical theater, that was my childhood in a nutshell. And I still love it.
Yes, and you can tweet at either of us. You can see our names are down there that you can. I'm gonna get my finger onto the screen.
I was like, you look like ASMR, where it's like, follow my finger, right? And you're doing a cranial nerve exam.
Yes.
Can you tweet at both of us?
All right. So yeah. So tweet at either of us. Tell your friends. If you don't like the show, tell your enemies. If you like the show, tell your friends. If you don't like the show, tell your enemies. Get the word out.
We're back, baby.
Yes, and on Saturday at 2 p.m., I will be pitching. I am going to be pitching a musical based on the work of Algernon Blackwood, which is just a fun name to say.
It's not a mouse. That's
Yes,
what I've learned.
There are so many names that in literature that are not fun to say. Algernon Blackwood is one of the fun ones. Anyway, stay safe. Take care of yourself, because, we're not there to take care of you, all right? And, yes, hand sanitizer, masks, social distancing. Don't buy any snake oil. Your snake is already oily enough, all right? All right, love you guys. Have a good night. And let's see, I'm going to fade out here eventually.